Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Andy, I'm from Singapore, and today we are going to do a very quick review of this Seiko Arnie. Well, the Seiko Arnie, they were relaunched. Okay, so this is not entirely a new model. It is more like a reissue of the famous watch, made famous of course by the governor. He wore it in his 1985 movie Commando, and fans were really quick to call that watch the H558, nickname it the Arnie. And over here, this is a 2019 reissue. So during the first wave, they had a few colorways, and the PADI version that I'm holding on here is one of them. Alright, so reference number for this model is SNJ027P1. As the suffix indicate, the P1 means that this one has got a solar movement. And I think the solar movement will make this a very good daily wearer because you don't have to worry about replacing the batteries every 3 or 5 years. So on the first look, I would say that Arnie actually has DNAs of the Seiko tuner. Alright, so it definitely has that shroud going on here. It even has 2 cutouts at the shroud here for access to the bezel. And you will find this very similar to a Seiko tuner. Right, this is one of my favorite Seiko tuners in my collection, and same again, you're going to see a shroud here. Alright, it's a coincidence because both watches here, they have plastic shrouds and they have the same cutouts here for you to gain access to the bezel. And let's just zoom in here a little bit as I share with you more on the specifications of this watch here. It's got a case size of 47.2 millimeters, so it's not a small watch. It's got a total thickness of 14.7 millimeters from the base of the case back here to the top of this bezel here. The crystal sits just a little bit recessed. Lug width on the Arnie here is 22 millimeters, so very standard for Seiko divers. Lug length here though is pretty long, right? Comes in at about 50.3 millimeters, and there is a very slight hint of curvature here on the lugs. So here's a very quick wrist shot to show you how the Arnie wears on my wrist. My wrist is about 17 centimeters. As mentioned earlier, this lug length here, 50.3 millimeters, it's not too bad, alright, because there is minimal case back protrusion, so it doesn't give you a watch that sits overly tall, and I would say the lug overhang here is minimal. Right, I can just get away with this long L to L, and overall I think the fit here is very good. And the Arnie here, despite being a very large watch, doesn't weigh too heavy. I put this one on my scale and it came in at about 112 grams, so I would say that's fairly light, alright, for a large case watch. Just to show you in terms of comparison, now the solar tuner here I've got comes in at about 97 grams, so this is just a little bit heavier at 112 grams. And the Arnie here is powered by Seiko's H851 caliber, so this one here I've never experienced this movement before. It is a analog digital module for sure. As you can see, it's got this one liner here at the 12 o'clock zone, and we're going to run through some of the functions here with regards to the digital display. So over here we've got 3 crowns here on the watch, and they have the same size, very big, comes in at about 7.5 millimeters, and each crown here has a screw-in function. So over here for the pushers, they are not exactly chrono pushers, they are the pushers to operate the LCD screen here. So I find the locking mechanism here very uncomfortable, alright? It's actually a not very nice feeling to operate the crowns over here. So with the tip of the crowns here exposed, alright, it shows that you can activate the button. So when you're underwater, right, Seiko does not advise you to operate these buttons because the water resistance will be compromised. Alright, so let's just take a look over here. This is the button for scrolling through the menu. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the time telling mode. So the hour, minute hands and the seconds hand here, they are slaved to the LCD display. As you can see here, it is 3:18 and 15 seconds. By toggling here, I'm switching from time telling to day and date, and this is the local time display. This is the stopwatch function, and if I want to activate the stopwatch, I'm going to depress the top button here, and I'll use this to time how long it takes for me to reach the MRT station, and over here I have to hold on in order to reset the button, reset the stopwatch function, and this is the alarm function, and finally I'm back to the time telling mode. Alright, so also interesting to note that this crown here on the right, the 3 o'clock zone here, it is not your usual type of crown whereby you pull out and then you set the time, because if you notice here, you cannot move the hour and minute hands. Alright, so every time I turn this one, it merely resets the seconds counter back to 0. So in order to set the time, I need to switch the option, right, to scroll down through the minutes. This is for the hour, and this is for the day of the month. This is for the month of the calendar, and this is for year 2022. So by doing the toggling here, by doing the scrolling here, turning of the crown here, I can then reset the date or the time. Right, so just allow me to show you what I'm talking about here. So time now is 3:19 p.m. So if I were to turn this crown here, you will see the minutes display scrolling upwards. Alright, so this is how the watch here is being reset. And now let's spend some time to talk about the case design and the build quality of the Seiko Arnie. So in terms of build quality, I would say this one here really belongs to the entry level of pro specs Seiko divers. So this one here typically goes for about 400 Singapore dollars. You can buy this watch off internet dealers or even from watch shops. Alright, and like I said here, the quality here really belongs to entry level. I would rate this one here in the same category as the Solar Tuner. Alright, not the highest level of quality, but I think it's pretty decent. There are no sharp edges or anything like that. The case back here is engraved very nicely. Over here it's got a good mix of blasted and polished finishes. Alright, one thing I'm not so happy about is the crown here. I think it is not very comfortable in terms of operation. Doesn't feel like there's a gasket in the crown over here. Alright, so as you can see, I'm having some difficulties trying to rethread the crown. Bezel action here is also very typical Seiko standard. Overall it's 120 click bezel, but you will feel that there's a 10 and D10 when it comes to each in-between click. And now let's move on and talk about the dial design. Alright, so over here I think the dial here is very interesting because it does feel like the top of the watch dial has been cut off. Alright, it's been chopped off. It looks like a guy getting a crop top or a flat top haircut over here at the 12 o'clock zone. So obviously this is done in mind to fit in this LCD display over here, and the LCD here is very good, done in positive display manner and very clear. Could be a little bit too small, but I think overall it is still very usable, very functional. We've also got a 24-hour time zone display here just inside of the chapter ring, and thereby overall I think this dial here is a little bit crowded, and it does feel like the dial here is very small, right, due to the fact that it's got so many displays going on, and on top of that you do need to set aside some space to put the LCD display over. And as for the handsets and the markers design, I think they follow closely to that of the SKX. And here's a look at the Lume shot of the Seiko Arnie SNJ027, and true to PADI specifications, the handset here, they are done in bicolor Lume. So the minutes hand here is done in green, whereas the rest of the watch here, it's got some kind of a blue looking Seiko Lume here, Lume Bright. Alright, and Lume Bright is always the best Lume in the business. So overall, I would say the Arnie here is a great watch for daily wear because of the addition of this LCD display here. The digital display here definitely, comes in very handy for situations when you need to time your runs and things like that. So thereby making this one a very useful watch. In terms of wearability, I think this watch is still quite wearable due to the fact that it's rather light, coming at under 120 grams. But there's a slight concern here with this crown, which sort of digs into the back of your hand. Right? So if you want to wear it a little bit higher up the wrist, I think it is not a problem at all. Overall, still very light, and I think makes a good daily wearer. So there you have it. That was my really quick review of the Seiko Arnie SNJ027P1. I think it's a really good daily wearer. So if you like this watch, please come back every week. Stick around because I'll be back for more reviews every week just for you. Bye bye.